Right, continuation of these falsified images. Remember this one with the fireman? And I've just talked to you about this whole rudder section being edited. Look, you can see this black patch there. And it also explains why these numbers are blurred, because they've been edited into the picture. It's not because someone couldn't focus their camera, it's because that's been edited in. So someone's changed the configuration of the wreckage. Another feature of this picture was they're all wearing nitrile gloves. Well, why? He's got his visor down. Why has he got his visor down? Again, this tells you that these pictures come from different images. Remember the sun on his back, he's in shadow. Now, in this picture, look at the tailplane. Each tailplane, side of the tailplane is the length of the rudder. So that tailplane should actually come right down to here. But when they've edited in the foreground, they've cropped off the tailplane. So to actually get the aircraft to list over at the angle shown in that picture, I modelled this fin and rudder. I had to break the tailplane at that point there, and it's the same with my model. Look how much I've had to break the tailplane in order to get it listed over at the angle shown in the picture. That's a staff rod set out at 1 foot intervals. I'm 5'6". Look at my height relative to the top of the rudder. Right, we carry on. This picture is another one of the early pictures. It was by Mark Billimore at Shutterstock, I think it's called. Now, firstly, look at the angle of the fuselage relative to the hedge line. It's parallel, isn't it? Remember, it can't be. It's got to be, every boundary relative to the side of that fuselage has got to be at 45 degrees. Look at the tarpaulin. Imagine throwing a tarpaulin over a Mustang fuselage. It wouldn't conform and be able to do what it's doing there. Look, it's got an ear there and it's got an ear there. The only way it could do what it's doing there is if you cut and shaped it. Like that. That tells you it's been edited into the picture. What you have here, and in all these pictures, is a contrived pile of wreckage. Remember, in the Air Accident Investigation Branch report, I demonstrated to you that the wreckage could never be in that configuration. And it can't. And this also demonstrates how it's just been contrived. Look, if you look carefully here, that is the right-hand undercarriage there. Look at its position. That right-hand undercarriage should be way back here where those D-Day band lines are. If you've got to really study these images carefully. Very, very carefully. What you actually have here is two left-hand clamshell doors. That there is a left-hand clamshell door, and that is a left-hand clamshell door as well. In this picture here, you need to get them up on screen. Those lines coming over this piece of metal here, they're not tears. Those are actually coming up. If you look in the pictures, you'll find like a Shreve block up here, and their cables coming down. Oh, I've got to try and find the other picture now. So you've got two left-hand clamshell doors there. You can see that this has been edited in here. Look at the tarpaulin position again. It's a wholly contrived, constructed image. Now, if you look at this emergency service vehicle here, if you enlarge this panel here, you can see that's been edited into the picture. Someone, once again, doesn't want to, has changed the identity of that vehicle. Now, one of the words that I read on this panel was rail. Now, interestingly, the Rail Accident Investigation Branch are based on the same compound as the Air Accident Investigation Branch. You have a very odd little light here, which is floating in mid-air, a blue light. There's an artificiality about this picture. The colours are too consistent. There's no light and shade to them. Now, look, similar sort of vehicles are in this configuration. Now, in this picture, now I'm not going to be able to find what I want. Right, carry on. What I was just saying about a Shreve block. That's one of those first pictures. Can you see these lines coming down here? That's a cable coming down here. and there's a strap coming back across here. Now I suspect that fuselage is being strapped up to what is a scaffold to support it whilst a photograph is being taken, and it's also being suspended from here somewhere. This is like a Shreve block. You've got one line coming out, one line coming down here. You have to really study these pictures very carefully. That's an enlargement. Can you see, like, you've got two features here? You've got something like this there. Here we go again, look. This block here, look at this thing here and this here, and it coming down over here, which is over the clamshell door. Those are not tears in the metal, those are cables. Now, in that Guardian picture, you can see them coming over here and over here, but someone's edited out those cables because they don't want you to see them, and they've edited out what would be the scaffold tower supporting the fuselage. I think part of this image, some of the fuselage was lifted up, suspended from a crane, strapped back to a scaffold tower, and a photograph was taken. Right, I did just want to go back to the propeller, because that Mark Bullion picture, this picture here, which was one of the very first pictures to come out, there was a picture of the propeller, which I won't be able to find now. Here, this is the propeller in that Mark Bullion picture. Now look how these two blades are dead straight. That propeller in that picture indicates an engine that had stopped at the time the aeroplane crashed. Now compare it to that propeller. It's as if someone is, without any question, trying to convince us that something else happened to what did happen. Look at the difference. Look at the angle of the propeller here. And there. And the damage to propeller blades. Very peculiar, isn't it? Right, I don't want to spend any more time on these images, but in this report, because I want to go on to this falsified video next. So this report, it takes you through all the images in much more detail and shows you how they're all corrupted. All those images there are falsified using the techniques I've explained to you. Now you've got to think to yourself, all those pictures in the Air Accidents Investigation Branch report are falsified, constructed. They do not depict the wreckage or crash site immediately following the accident. And that report, I went to the inquest, that report was presented as evidence, was being used as evidence. That is falsified evidence, it's perjury. And I brought that to the attention of the police and Norfolk Fire Service. And remember, all these media pictures were falsified as well. But the person, as I've said before, who falsified these images knows the exact configuration of the wreckage to the smallest detail, which cowlings are missing, etc. So it can only be the work of one party. All the images. That's the only explanation. And again, you have to ask yourself, what motive did the Air Accidents Investigation Branch have to falsify all those images? And what motive did the person falsifying all these images had? Because the time they'd have spent falsifying all these images, the news story would have been old. They'd have had no financial value whatsoever. It doesn't make any logical sense. The only logical sense is that a corruption is taking place. Right, what I'm going to do now in the final video is just take you through this falsified video which has appeared on the internet about the accident, and it acts as a rebuttal to everything I've just spoken to you about in these Air Accidents Investigation Branch report pictures and in these media images.